Hey everybody, my name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
Bob, on this Camper Report show, at this time of year, we're going to talk about a topic that is on every RVer's mind, and it's taxes. It was one of our most watched shows last year, and we're bringing back the tax queen to tell you all the new things, brand new things that are advantageous to RVers regarding taxes. How about yourself?
That's fantastic. She always does a great job. I'm going to be interviewing Rick Kessler, our friend at RV Business. We're going to talk about what consumers should be looking for in 2022. And of course, RV Business and Woodall's Campground magazine are where we get all of this news section and all of the good stories every week. And they do a great job. And Rick was kind enough to join me for a little interview. So looking forward to it.
Hey, it's all coming up today, right now on
the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody. And welcome back to the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro. His name, or is it that way?
No, you were right the first time. Oh, yeah, right.
His name is Bob Zagami. And you know what? This is the time of year when some of the biggest RV shows in the entire country take place. But in addition to that, if you don't live near one of those areas or aren't traveling to one, there are so many reasons that we're going to talk about today as to why you and your family should be attending an RV show. And Bob Zagami, you are an expert on that. You've been in the industry many years. You run a big show right in Boston.
Yeah, we open up that show in next week.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So talk about the two big ones, and then we'll talk about why people should consider. Right, just south of us by 1,500 miles, or by me, is Tampa, Florida, and that is a huge show. It's been going on for what, more than 35 years?
35. This is the 35th year for the Tampa Super Show. Yep.
Yeah, and we expect what's their normal attendance?
They run 65 to 75,000 people from Wednesday through Sunday. That opens up on the 19th. So 19th to the 23rd. Yeah.
Okay. And then out in California, Arizona. People think it's California, but it's Arizona, Quartzsite. Another huge show that I've read has attracted 750,000 people during the time that it's runs every year, which is absolutely amazing number.
Well, it is, and RV Business did a good write-up on both of these shows this week, and they're unique in different ways. The Tampa Super Show is a traditional RV show that people would see around the country, whether it was Hershey or Boston or Michigan. A lot of in an enclosed space or an enclosed area with large displays of manufacturers' products and supported by the dealers in the local area. Quartzsite, although it has an RV dealer for a sponsor, RV Country, is over a large landmass, and it grew organically from no particular organization. It just grew out of the desert, and it just became more and more popular with snowbirds, a tremendous number of snowbirds that go out to Arizona. But their numbers are striking that for 1 week, they could actually get 750,000 people passing through. Some will just literally pass through the area, stop for 2 hours and check out 1 or 2 tents, and others will camp out for 7 to 10 days.
So let's look at some points here that we discussed earlier about why going to a live RV show has its advantages. And number one is, regardless of what show it is, and we're not just restricting ourselves to the super shows, but the shows that take place in the community centers all around the country in the Northeast, and shouldn't say Northeast, but this time of year. Number one, the huge selection that you will see compared to going to one dealership. Talk about that.
Well, it's probably the most important part of the show event, if you will, because a lot of people don't realize that there's multiple dealers and there's multiple products. And it's interesting. In fact, I had a letter this week from a consumer with respect to our show, because she felt a particular brand or a particular model of the brand wasn't going to be there. Well, that's not really the reason to go to the show. The show is just what you said. It's a selection of dealers and a selection of product. Every show is going to get critics. Somebody's going to want to see Class A diesel pushes, and if they don't see them, they're going to complain. Another family is going to complain that they didn't see enough pop-ups. But the real purpose of a show, besides buying a new RV, if you're ready to buy, there are great deals, is to, in one place, get a chance to talk to 10, 20, maybe more dealers, and get to know them. Do they fit your lifestyle? Do they fit your social attitudes? Can you be comfortable with that dealer? And then pick out 2 or 3. If you're not ready to buy, pick out 2 or 3 of those dealers that you will follow up with after the show, because every dealer has an open house.
Right.
Years ago, before the internet, they were buying shows, but now the people want to see units and meet the people.
Right. And along those lines, specifically along those lines, you will meet people at these shows that are from the manufacturer, not just from a specific dealership. So you may have a question about a certain model that particular dealership may not have, but another dealership may have. And then the industry rep, the person from Elkhart or wherever the manufacturer is, can tell you, well, you know what? It's not available at ABC dealership, but it's available at XYZ dealership. And that way there you get valuable information. Now,
well, picking up on that, John, a good reason that you want to go is for those manufacturers' reps. Many dealers cover many different product lines. It's just unique to our industry. It is absolutely impossible for every sales rep at every dealership to understand everything there is to know about a particular product brand. By going to the show, you can, when you go to that dealer's display, you can say, is the manufacturer's rep here for this particular product? I'd like to talk to him. Guess what? That person knows everything about that product inside and out and can answer the questions.
Yep. Now, the other thing is, and that's so important because the more information you can get, the better off you'll be in making your decision. The third point that I think it's very important is that, all the studies show that 75% of new RV buyers have done research on the internet to figure out pricing and pictures, et cetera, but there's really nothing like getting into the unit, getting to feel it, getting to see the fit in the finish, because a lot of these units, again, depending upon what class you're buying, start with the same format. They start with a Ford chassis or a Dodge chassis or a Mercedes chassis. That's all the same at the front end, but the back end is really where you want to see the difference in how one manufacturer has a specialty versus another one. And again, you can't see that online. You can only see that in person.
Yep, and it goes to the exterior and the interior. The pictures and the information on the internet are nice, but it may be completely different from what you expected when you see it in person. And that goes from the chassis up. Whose chassis is it built on? Who builds the chassis of the trailer or the fifth wheel? Is it wood construction or is it aluminum construction? Is it fiberglass paneling? The things that they use both inside and out.
Yep. And there was another story in RV Business this week that talked about the youngering. There's a new word. The youngering of the RV buyer. They're getting younger each year, which means they probably have young kids with them instead of grandkids. And taking the whole family to the RV show allows the kids to kind of dictate to the parents, what features they like. Do they like bunk beds? Do they like to sleep over the coach, over the driver's seat, et cetera, et cetera? Bring the family, make a day of it, right, Bob?
Yeah, it's a very important part of it. I can still remember back around 93 when I was buying a particular RV that I think she was 12. My daughter was 12 at the time, and she said
1993, right?
Yeah, 1893. and my daughter said, "Dad, if you don't buy this one, I'm never going to speak to you again." Well, I didn't buy it. She spoke to me, but I did buy it 6 months later. But yeah, you get a chance to see how is the physical layout going to be? Where are the bedrooms? Where's the bathroom? Where's the kitchen? Are you going to eat inside? Are you going to eat outside? but young children are a big driver in our industry today. So are they going to fit in the bed? Sure. The brochure might say the dinette will sleep 2 kids. Well, how big are your kids?
Yeah,
It's
two little
probably
kids.
one small.
Two
It's
infants.
probably one small kid, or you might
Exactly.
sleep 2 babies. But you have to be practical about that. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So you know what? The RV show season is here. There's so many reasons to go. And what we want to do is thank our friends at RV Business and Woodalls for giving us some great stories to build upon, such as Tampa and Quartzize and all the new camping opportunities that are out there. So that's our news wrap for this week. I'm John DePietro, and there we go, is Bob Zagami. Stay with us right here. Where, Bob?
At the Camper Report Show.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. And a special interview today is with Rick Kessler, Managing Director of RV Business Magazine, and part of the group that also owns Woodall's Campground Magazine. And if you watch the show regularly, you'll know that we thank them every week, because our news section that John and I do, all of that news comes from RV Business and Woodall's Campground Magazine. So, Rick, I'll shut up and welcome to the show and Happy New Year.
Thanks very much, Bob. Happy New Year to you too.
What do you think is ahead for our consumers here in 22? 20 was a little rough. 21 got a little bit better and got a little bit rougher at the end there. But consumers are such diehard fans of the industry and of the experience. What do you look forward to in 22 for the consumer?
It'd be too easy to say more of the same, but that might be the case. Record numbers of new RVers, which means a record number of new RVers looking for campsites. And yes, campgrounds are expanding, and yes, we're getting some more being developed, but not at the same rate as the new RVers coming in. I know I myself, we've only been able to book 3 trips so far, and just those 3 trips alone was pretty difficult to try and find some campsites. We go to an area and then you try to find a nice campground near there. All the good stuff is getting taken up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you hit on probably the number one issue that we as an industry, but also the consumers, are going to face this year. You cannot keep putting out 600,000 new units a year, half of them going to first-time buyers that have never had an RV and perhaps have never been in a campground. And they are trying to learn what us veteran RVers and campers have known for years. And it is a different time. There was a time when you could just decide to go away for the weekend, come home, hop in the camper, whether it was a pop-up or a motorhome, just go where you want to go and make a few phone calls along the way, you'd find a campground. But I think what's interesting is when we look at the changing demographics of our industry, and we've broadened the product lines, everything from a $10,000 pop-up to a $2 million bus. Younger generations that don't want to go to campgrounds. They want to boondock. They want to be off the grid. They want to go hiking and fishing. So the 600,000 number may be startling to some people, but a good percentage of those are not the traditional campers that you and I grew up with long-time exposures. And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing in your publications, and you're reporting on the same thing in your publications.
There's no doubt about what you just said. Probably the biggest trend in the 2022 model year product are these, what we're calling adventure rigs or adventure trailers. It's the small, ready to go off-road, ready to go off-grid campers, mostly single axle, and you can pull them with your Jeep. That's how light they are, right?
Right.
I know I my daughter lives out in Colorado, and I keep trying to say, that's what you need to get. You need to get out there in those mountains with one of those adventure, even a teardrop, right? But no, that's by far. And then, to your point, that's why Joel's Harvest Host is doing so well.
It is amazing. I don't think we go by a single week without mentioning Harvest Host. And he's not a sponsor. We're not indebted to him in any way. I just think that he got into that at the right time.
Sure.
The original owners did a fantastic job with it, but they didn't want to expand. And Joel, being the entrepreneur that he is, had a tremendous vision, and he's carrying it out in terms of what he thought Harvest Host could be and how beneficial it is to consumers. I mean, John and I, use it all the time when we're out. It's just an amazing adventure, and he's adding some great profiles to it. And I think there's some competitors coming along, which is good. There's plenty of room. Go to a farm, go to a winery, go wherever you want. You can pick out anything. I mean, he's even got an aircraft museum as one of the places to go. So I'm still trying to get Jack Daniels to turn into a Harvest Host location, but I haven't been able to find the right marketing person. Then I could probably visit the distillery more often. But going back,
they're not going to do it, Bob, because they know as soon as you got there, you'd never leave.
Going back to your point though about the single axles in the teardrops, even a teardrop now can have flexible solar panels and portable, and have the lithium batteries to go with them. So if somebody wants to stay off the grid, they can. And the new camper vans, I mean, I know our dealers in New England, they can't keep them in stock. When they come in, they're pre-sold. That's probably going to be the other challenge that the consumers are going to continue to see in 22 is the fact that they look at the dealers, some of them are pretty low on inventory, and they say, well, I'll wait till it fills up again, or they got a lot full of product. The fact of the matter is, in many cases, the product that's coming in, it's already bought and paid for. They're just waiting to get up.
I would say this, you're right, definitely right. But I would say it is getting better only because just if you look at the numbers, 600,000 wholesale shipments from the RV OEMs versus I think they're going to have about 525,000 retail sales by the time 2021 is tabulated. It is starting to balance, but yeah, the demand is still much more than what they're able to supply.
You're right. We've noticed that where our dealers are reporting, dealers all around the country are reporting that the shipments are coming in, they're more frequent, they're getting the products that they want. So supply chain issues are lessening, and product is getting out into the dealers' lots. And some of these dealers have tremendous inventory. I mean, it's crazy the amount of inventory that some of these dealers are carrying. And I think it's a good time to buy an RV. A lot of people say, well, I'll wait till the prices come down, or, they're not going to come down for a while. They're not going to come down in 2022. And the pre-owned units have increased in value. It's quite similar. It's tracking the same way as the automobile industry. We've got automobile dealers now that are getting $10,000 and $20,000 above manufacturer's suggested pricing. Now, when was the last time we saw that? I may never seen it. I've been driving for 60 years. And so now we're seeing that same trend. And are you picking that up in your stories and stuff?
We are. And it's funny you mentioned the used auto pricing. I just came across a story today from Edmunds. The averaged used car price is $29,000. And that's 32 or 38% higher than it was 1 year ago.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It really is. And we're seeing the same thing with pre-owned RVs. I mean,
absolutely.
And if you're a consumer that is reaching the end of your RVing experiences and getting off the road, it's a great time to sell a product.
Last year, we sold our camper. We had a 2000 Traillight Bantam, so one of the very first generation hybrids ever made. We bought it used in 2007, had it for 14 years, absolutely loved it, served us well. but the kids are gone now. So my wife and I decided we wanted a couples coach, and we were camping, put the camper for sale on Facebook Marketplace, went for a 2-hour hike, came back, and I had 65 messages of people wanting to buy it. I sold it in less than 24 hours for my asking price. And excuse me for being a little bit braggadocious, but we sold it for the same price that we bought it for 14 years earlier.
That is crazy. That is crazy. But I've heard similar stories to do it. And it's good. The dealers will start to get more inventory on the pre-owned stuff. All right. Our guest today has been Rick Kessler, managing director or editor?
Well, if you want to get technical, it's executive editor.
Executive editor.
We all do the same stuff.
You've earned it. How long have you been there now?
8 years.
8 years. Okay. With Sherm Goldenberg, Greg Four, and a great team that we love to work with. So any last words for our consumers as they shake off the cobwebs of a week and a half off and the holidays and realize they have to get back to work, and they really should make those reservations early. Sometimes we feel like a broken record every week. We do it a lot on our social media, but the fact of the matter is, to your point earlier, if you want to go camping next year and you want to go camping where you want to go camping, make the reservations, right?
Make the reservations. Although I would say I live in Michigan and there's no good campgrounds in Michigan, nothing to see. Everybody should make those reservations anywhere outside of Michigan. Just be fine.
Well, I think that's very noble of you, Rick, to give people that kind of advice so they don't waste their time and money going to Michigan. That Gretchen Whitner may not agree with you, so you may get a phone call.
Well, right. I think I just made a lot of enemies too over at some of these state associations like Marvac and whatnot.
Perhaps. All right, Rick Kessler, thanks very much for joining us today. Again, Happy New Year, and we will see you down the road, and might even see you in Tampa in a few weeks. You going to Tampa?
I am not. Nope,
Yeah.
I'll be going down to Vegas for the NTP show.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll fill in for you. If you need anything, let me know.
Thanks, Bob. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the U.S. and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard. Pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Camper Report Show. And folks, when you have a hit program, the thing that you do is you bring it back. And our number one program last year was by our guest tonight. And let's just bring her in right now and introduce you to Heather Ryan. And Heather is the self-proclaimed tax queen. Heather, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. What does it feel like to be finally told that you were the number one show of the year in 2021?
I guess it feels pretty good.
Pretty good. I mean, you beat a lot of heavyweights out in the industry. And, with that being said, it's that time of year. And you know what? I think it's kind of a situation that no matter what time of year this show runs, it's pertinent because it's factual, it's up to date, and there are people that are entering the lifestyle, the RV lifestyle, more and more, and in a wide variety of different areas. So what we want to do is give you 30 seconds to tell us a little bit about your RVing experience and why you are eminently qualified to talk about taxes as an RVer. So
sure. So my husband and I were full-time for 5 years in a fifth wheel. We recently bought a home base. So if you can tell, I'm not in my fifth wheel currently, but we still love RVing and we still get out there as much as we can. And I just really focused on RVers as my tax clients. So helping them with deductions, especially those who run small businesses and travel full time or even part-timers. So.
And you know what? Just before we came on the air, and I'm going to go right to the good stuff right away, Heather. I said to you, Heather, are there any major changes in the tax code for RVers between last year when you were on in March and right now? And you said to me, the business meal deduction is 100%. Nothing could be greater than to hear something like that. Why do you think they did that?
I think they did it to help people in the restaurant industry. So it's to encourage people to eat out, to take their clients to dinner or to lunch, bring food in. I mean, just to support the economy as it's recovering from, as we all know, the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part about the pandemic, and it has devastated some industries like the live entertainment business and the restaurant industry for a period of time. But the industry that I think had probably the most positive influence on was the RVing industry, the RV industry, the camping industry, because it was one of those out in the open air recreational opportunities that brought people into camping that were never there before. I'm sure that you see that in your client base right now with people that are just getting into RVing and really need to find out from you what they can take and not take and how they should file.
Tons of new people, or even people that are now planning because they've worked from home for the past year or two, and they're like, why do I have to be stationary if I can work from home? So yeah, they're taking those jobs on the road or even just their business if they can.
You know what? I'm sure you'd agree, Heather, there are so many categories of RVers out there. Let's just talk about some of the major ones. You've got the full-timers that are working from their RV. You've got the full-timers that are retired. You've got part-timers that are working from their RV. And you've got people that are thinking of hitting the road because their newfound freedom of not having to be sitting in a cubicle all day long has allowed them to look into RVing. Talk first about the RVer that is full-time in working. What are some of the major issues that they have to be concerned with?
It depends on their job or what they're, if they're running their own business or if they're a W-2 employee, it varies. W-2 employee, I don't think much really changes except your location. And as far as running your own business, there's actually, most people don't like to hear me say this, but I think there are actually less deductions you can take because you don't get the home office deduction. Most likely you're not going to have mileage. You're going to lose some of that stuff. So those are things I think people don't like to hear, but I have to say it anyway.
Have to say it anyway. So talk about, for example, just for a moment, because we want to try to get into all these different categories in a real short period of time. We should also tell people that there is an RV checklist available to our viewers to really find out a lot of the major aspects of it. Heather, give us that address so people can just click right on and get it sent to them directly.
If you go to my website, tax-queen.com, you'll find there's a link to download it. So.
Okay. And it's called Tax Write-Off Checklist.
Sure. And it's more pertinent to the small business owner who's traveling because they're the ones that have more deductions or questions around deductions. Someone who's a W-2 employee is a little more simplified, so the checklist might not be pertinent to them.
Okay. So just check what is pertinent and disregard the rest. We consider full-timers to be homeless, but from tax purposes, you're not really homeless. You had said to me prior, you have to claim a certain state as your domicile. Are there certain states that are advantageous for an RVer to be registered in?
Sure.
Where they won't get caught by the tax people?
Well, I can't say you'll never get caught, but there are popular ones, and they're usually popular because there's no income tax. So Florida, South Dakota, and Texas, they all have their pros and cons to being a resident or having domicile there. They all have mail services. So that's how most of the full-timers who leave behind a house or an apartment, that's how they do it, is they use a mail service. So.
And then it gets forwarded to them and that type of thing there.
But yeah, the mail service will usually allow you to use that address. So when you go to register your vehicles or to get your driver's license, that's the address you can use.
We should tell our viewers that the Camper Report Show is not presenting this as legal news. So we're not responsible. But anyway, the lawyers made me say that. But you are an enrolled agent. And
Sure.
Talk about what an enrolled agent is and how that differs from someone who just prepares taxes.
Sure. An enrolled agent is actually licensed by the IRS. So I have to sit for exams. I have to do continuing education every year. But the IRS is the one who issues my license. So I can practice taxes in all 50 states. Doesn't have any limitations in that way. I can represent taxpayers anywhere.
Okay. And the bulk of your business now is working with RVers?
That is the bulk of my business, yes, particularly small business owners who also RV. I think I was talking to someone recently. I filed taxes in 28 states. That just shows you not everyone picks, one of those popular domicile states. Some people choose to keep their home and use a family member or friend as their resident address.
Okay, so we should say that, or should ask you, have you seen a huge increase in the number of RVers or people at least that are referencing you for the first time, seeking tax advice from an RV professional, tax professional?
My business is growing. How's that?
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
I mean, I feel like it's a fluctuation. I mean, there's always people hitting the road. There's people leaving the road for various reasons. I don't know. There's not one avenue that's right for people, right? So someone might be on the road for several years, finding a place that they want to settle down, or sometimes it's just a job opportunity comes around, or who knows, whatever reasons people get off the road.
Great, yeah. I mean, and there are some people that work from their RV and actually use a space in it that's dedicated to work, and there are others that are full-timing, but are working in a business, in another business. So my guess is that the tax implications for those two groups of people would be totally different.
It does change, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
So yeah,
Heather,
if you're
I can't believe
physically,
our time has gone so quickly. We want to let people know that we've been talking with Heather Ryan, the tax queen. And Heather, you can be reached at
tax-queen.com.
Okay, tax-queen.com. And on her website, there is that very, very helpful, I've got one right here, that checklist, that tax write-off checklist. And
and that includes a little glossary. So if you're unfamiliar with some of the terms, it'll explain them to you.
Great, super. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Camper Report Show. I'm John DePietro. She's Heather Ryan. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.